truth be told, Frodan, I have something sad to say to you, and also sad. This is new music, by the way.
This is not the NASL.
No, that's good. We can keep going with that. Okay, let's talk about it right
now. There's two series that stuck out in my mind yesterday: Thorazine versus Rhett and Sen versus Zenyou. And the first one I want to cover is Thorazine versus Rhett. What a champion Thorazine was in this series. It was absolutely amazing. Just because he was down 2-0 early on, everyone thought it looked really bad for Thorazine. And even in this game, it looked like Rhett had full control. He has 5 bases. He's got the map covered in creep. Rhett's got everything. He's got his high timing pretty well protected and keeping Thorazine out. But Thorazine started using non-stop aggression and really picked apart Rhett, and it was a spectacle to watch.
Yeah, what I love about this is Rhett is punishing his opponent for leaving the creep for such a long time. Normally, creep, you don't want to have it going across the map that way. You know, obviously, you can do those pushes and have them deal damage. But Rhett is punishing his opponent perfectly, but Thorazine just miraculously just microing everything to perfection. It was absolutely awesome. This, yes, he gets cleaned up here, but you have to remember this required 2 rounds of units, not just one. So Thorazine's reinforcements came in and just absolutely decimated everything.
Yeah, what's also awesome, too, is that Thorazine, it's not usual of him to be so aggressive. He's known as the Spoon Terran, the one who takes his time to really slow push his way across the map and slowly, surgically dissect you. But now he's the one been putting relentless aggression on and showing that he can change his style a little bit to adapt to the need. You can see him pushing across the center of the map, now being able to take down Rhett's exterior bases. And the big thing is that he's going to continue doing this while pushing different parts of the map. You can see the main got cleaned up in the upper right of the mini-map, lost all of his tag. Rhett had to go for a huge attack down the center, and normally this is position like, man, he's got Broodlords and Infestors, but Thorazine held with brilliant control, and it was an absolute amazing thing to watch.
Yeah, the burst damage was just phenomenal in this, and we got to give props to Thorazine for this entire series, really. He played phenomenally. And
I know, we make it sound like Thorazine won the series, too.
Yeah.
I mean, Rhett did end up winning, guys. We're not.
This was just one of the coolest games because Thorazine, I think a lot of people thought he was dead in this game. I think
thought he was dead at one point.
The casters thought he was dead, and he came back into it. Absolutely beautiful play. And then we move over to Sen versus Zenyou. And this match on Ohana was probably one of the coolest matches, one of the coolest ZVZs I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Not only NASL, but I would just say the entire lifetime of Wings of Liberty.
The fact that we start ZVZ highlight reel at 18 minutes already begins to show you how great of a game this would end up to be. You can see a huge attack. It was two different sided fights. One that was winning for Zenyou on the top, and Sen ended up winning on the bottom, and then it became pure Hydra against a lot of roaches left. And it was just very interesting to watch this dynamic continue to unfold. Both players very on top of their macro, really on top of their unit control as well. And what was so amazing is the small fights that broke out everywhere. And you know what, Andre? This is not the only highlight reel that I chose for Sen and Zenyou. There's also another game that I want to show you, but let's focus again on this one. You can see another attack onto the 5th base of Sen was a huge one, and you can just see that there's just so much good positioning from both players. And it's like, even though it just seems like it's favorable for one person, both players kept pushing back, and no one ever got a true advantage in the entire game.
Yeah, this was just absolutely crazy. I mean, well, what was so cool is that it went like these battles the whole time, and then it actually started to go low economy, but these same battles. So it was like, oh, I'm on low economy. I don't really want to engage. So they would have these very high count armies, you know, whether it be 100, 150, around there. And they would just keep dodging each other, trying to do these little guerrilla warfare tactics to get ahead.
It was very low econ, as you can see. Both players pretty much had 1 or 2 mining bases left, and that's why Zenyou really wanted to protect it. Even doing small things like burrowing his units to gain back just a little bit of health to swing back battles in his favor. But Sen is everywhere, sending roaches all over the map yet again. And Zenyou ended up losing pretty much all of his economy while Sen was protecting that one base. Now, what's so funny is that Sen ended up expanding to Zenyou's side of the map, was trying to hold it. The spine crawlers gave him a good position, but there was a huge army from Zenyou was pushing forward, and then the drones come out. Sen pulling all the stops, and it was coming down to the very last battle. Whoever would win this battle would end up taking the game, and only one person stood on top. And it was Sen.
Isn't that so crazy? The drones really turning the tide of the game. Out of all the units you could possibly think of, the drones are actually coming in to tank a lot of the damage and then really establish control of this top left base. You know, I really have to give it up to Zenyou in this whole thing, but Sen, man, he looked amazing.
Yeah.
It really proves why he has been third place for NASL Season 1 and 2.
And we all have to go to this other game from Sen versus Zenyou because this game was just absolutely ridiculous. You can see the huge attack down the center from Sen. Even though Sen was at a supply disadvantage because he was attacking the whole time, this was so interesting, just decision-making, but combat tactics from Sen to really use Infested Terrans to shove his way down the center rather than just trying to fungal, you know, instead of keeping the units in place. If you're at an army disadvantage, use those Infested Terrans, and there's a lot of DPS raining down on them.
It almost didn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
How effective this attack was. Both these players are on quite equal bases, but Sen able to just charge through. When you first looked at that, you were like, Sen, what are you doing? You are going to lose that fight. All of a sudden, he's in his opponent's third base. He's doing damage to the fourth base. He's just everywhere at once, and now all of a sudden, Zenyou is in the position where it's like, oh my god, I need to scramble for, you know, some units.
Now this was really cool from Zenyou, starting to drop his opponent's main base while pushing on different sides. Now what's important is that he realized when he gets in here, he's got to target out one thing, the tech. He snipes the Greater Spire while pushing the center with his Broodlords and dropping the top left. Zenyou was playing like a Terran.
Yeah, and you know, this is kind of cool. Something a little bit new in these matchups that we haven't been seeing. We've actually been seeing this in ZVZ, ZVP, and even to an extent PVZ, where, you know, these players are doing these Terran strategies that we've seen all over the place. As we can see, Infestors going up here. Infestors are able to decimate drone lines, especially if they're clumped up together. Sen, though, throughout this whole game was able to keep it together and keep his bearings straight.
Yeah, what's so cool is that now it's, instead of rather having Mass Roach, Infestor Turtle, Mass Roach, Infestor Turtle, it was a huge amount of action everywhere. But this action was the biggest mind-blowing thing of all because Zenyou sacrificed 8 Infestors, and it was high energy Infestors as well. And imagine if Zenyou could have kept those, how much easier the game would have been for him. But, you know, Sen ended up still getting dropped and still losing a lot of his economy. And it's just, again, really cool to watch these kinds of tactics unfold in ZVZ of all matchups.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? That's why you really have to give it to these two players, because when do you ever see endgame Zerg versus Zerg? Again, another, you know, higher than 20-minute game. You never see that in
this
ZZ.
Was higher than 40-minute game.
Oh, wow. Zerglings and Banelings. Yeah, that's where it ends. That's where ZVZ ends. Nope. Not for these two players.
And now look at how many missile attacks are going around everywhere, and it's just so many Infested Terrans being dropped, and you can see that position that Zenyou really want to hold in the bottom center just because both players are running so low on resources. Sen takes over the control of the map yet again, and counter-attacking at the same time, being everywhere, taking advantage of the immobile army from Zenyou. And it was so cool to watch because this is a kind of ZVZ where people aren't used to these scenarios. You see how they kind of use their StarCraft game sense to really put themselves in the advantage. And just look at how many Infested Terrans. Now, Andre, I want to tell you, look at the bloodshed, just how much red is on the screen. It's quite disgusting.
Red and green, man. It's insane how many green balls pop up from both these players. But I think Sen is definitely the player that showcases the power of these Infested Terrans and the fact that these are all free units. But still, I mean, Broodlords are free, or Broodlings are free units to an extent as well.
That's right. And when Swarm Hosts come, Locusts will be free units. It's just going to be free units everywhere for Zerg. And you can see that Sen was really trying to press against Zenyou. And the reason why we're showing so much is because this doesn't even capture half of the amount of excitement and battles that were going on everywhere. During this whole time, Sen is, you know, pushing the center while also running the roaches all over the map and dropping everywhere as well. Both players were using as many tools in the Zerg arsenal as possible. And I was just blown away watching this entire series. I was trying to ladder during this, but because of the entire, I kept watching all these sequences, I stopped in the middle of it. It was just so awesome to see.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, Sen overall is going to take the series 3-2.
Yeah, we went to game number 5. This is only game number 3. And Zenyou did end up going to win this game, even though it looks like it'll never end. It actually, I felt at one point the series would have not ended, but it was just crazy to watch too. And you know what's something that's really cool too is that in the end, it ended up becoming smaller battles of more aggression. they didn't kind of like sit back and try to mass larger armies. It was end up, well, I have this many units, how can I use them efficiently? And it started fighting in smaller battles everywhere. You can see that, and Zenyou kept his infestors alive, but then he had no real army, so how does he fight with no army? Well, he's just going to fungal and put infestarians everywhere.
Yeah. And you know what? A lot of players actually crumble at this stage because they're like, oh, well, it's endgame. I should be at 200, 200. Let me be pushing here. Where that is the wrong decision most of the time. You have to be active with your armies, especially when you are very energy-based. Infestors, obviously, are the #1 things that you have to keep an eye for. And, you know, you can see the constant aggression by Sen in particular really led into a pretty nice situation at this endgame stage.
Yes, Sen would end up losing this game. Zenyou does tap out of here in terms of NASL, but he'll be back for Season 4, and we are excited to have him after showcasing this this amount of skill. You can see that Zenyou pushes in here, and the reason why I want to show this game is because this game was the best of the series, game number 3, and I was absolutely just floored by the high-level ZVZ we watched. Definitely the best ZVZ I have ever watched in StarCraft 2. If you missed it, if you missed it, check it out on our YouTube page, youtube.com/NAStar.
You guys have to check out those matches. Also, check out the matches from Wednesday. Those are awesome. We casted them there. You know, it's interesting. NASL, the group stages, if I were to compare those games to these games, it almost feels like the group stages are so, I wouldn't say lackluster, but these group stage, or excuse me, these wildcard and playoff stages are just like Code A, Code S level matches every single time. It's amazing, and we get best of 5s every single time. Yeah.